Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, all of our guests brought to you by, as we told you in the previous segment, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. And that includes our next guest, Brock McGillis, the first openly gay pro hockey player as a goaltender. He played junior hockey for Windsor and Sault Ste. Marie, university hockey at Concordia, played pro at the Kalamazoo Wings, and in Europe, I believe in the Netherlands. Brock is currently on a tour that will see him talk to 100 high school age minor hockey teams in 100 days across Canada, and he joins us now. Brock, thanks so much for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Good. I hope I got all that information right. Hey, what's the message you're trying to get across with these young hockey players?
I mean, hockey is such a great sport, and it has so much power to do good. And ultimately, what the goal is to create welcoming environments for everybody. Regardless of your sexuality, your gender identity, your race, or anything else, disability. We can make the sport a little bit better and a little more welcoming for every single person, which is, ultimately also impacts the straight white kid who can't conform. It impacts the kids who adhere to norms who don't necessarily want to.
The tour has started, if I'm not mistaken, in BC. How's it going so far? How's it been received?
Well, you just said it was Wednesday, and I had no idea what day of the week it was.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a blur. I'm a weekend, and it's already feels like a month, but it's been so rewarding. The kids have been incredible. Coaches and management have been wonderful to deal with. The message has been well received, and it's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Brock, when was the first time in hockey you struggled to navigate the locker room environment and the prejudice language that was commonplace in it?
Probably 12 years old. Like, I knew, first time I asked my parents if I was gay, I was 6. I've known my entire life, and I adhered to the norms of the culture, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but I was a womanizing hockey bro because of the language I heard daily was beat me down to the point that I felt like it was bad or wrong. I couldn't be myself and do what I loved, what was my identity, hockey. So I hid it, I suppressed it, I numbed. Probably from the age of 12, by the time I was 18, I started drinking heavily to numb it, to suppress it. I was self-harming. And it, my career derailed. I went from being on NHL draft lists and supposed to have this trajectory to the NHL to playing in the minors in Europe and in the US. And I really struggled.
Brock, there's a quote from you: the language used for the last 50 years in hockey hasn't shifted. It's amazing to me because I covered junior hockey in the 90s, and then I put 2 kids through minor hockey, and your comment is so accurate. How do we change the language of hockey? Because I agree, I could go back into hockey tomorrow. At that level, the grassroots and the language doesn't change.
Yeah, I think the one thing I will say is that I think the attitudes towards LGBTQ plus and different groups, marginalized communities, has evolved, especially amongst young people. They're exposed to so much more at a young age. So they're more receptive and open. That said, the language they use hasn't, especially in these settings. I think hockey is so insular. We have this bubble, and and when you're done playing, you get into coaching, management, etc., and you stay in the sport. Everyone stays in. I stayed in. I ran hockey businesses when I retired initially for like 7-8 years. But we start to, take what we've learned and use the attitudes, language, behaviors that were projected onto us, and then bring it down to the next generation. And then it becomes a snowball effect, a ripple effect. And then if junior players are using it, then older AAA players who hear them talk, maybe skate with them in the offseason, start using it. And then those AAA players influence younger kids And before you know it, it's just a perpetual cycle.
Have you had players reach out to you, Brock?
Oh, yeah.
And
All the
how,
time.
how does that go?
I mean, for me, what the biggest thing is making sure they're okay. Making sure they feel supported, making sure that they're comfortable with themselves. And listen, I have people who have reached out who are struggling with other things too. It's not just LGBTQ plus. That just happens to be my lived experience. So it's a gateway to have these conversations to create welcoming environments. But I try and work with them, specifically those who I try and be a resource for anyone, but those who are really struggling, that I see their self-harm and risk of like worse. I'll go to their communities and talk with their families. I'll sit down with them, try and find resources in their area and get them on a good path and know they're not alone.
Brock, you said something earlier going against your true self. You said you were a womanizing hockey bro. What? Could you elaborate on that?
I adhered to the norms completely. Like I walked into a room like I owned it. I thought it was a gift to the world. I acted like a cocky stereotype of what we think a hockey player is, or what we've seen, the tropes we've seen in TV shows, movies, etc. I thought that's what I had to be to survive. So I did it. I thought that's what I had to be to play the sport. So I did it. Otherwise, I'd be othered and pushed aside.
Where are you when it comes to the NHL's decision to not ban Pride nights, but ban the Pride jerseys during a warm-up, and there's an issue with Pride tape as well?
Yeah, I mean, first, like, listen, I think visibility is really important. I think it's lovely. I think for fans especially. But I haven't seen one rainbow eradicate homophobia. To me, I think, I look at Pride nights and whatnot, and I see it kind of like Pride started as a protest. Pride was a fight for rights, for equality. And as we gained more equality and we gained more societal recognition of being equal, and that we weren't being jailed, and that we weren't, seen as a mental illness and all these different things, it became more of a celebration of the rights we've gained and marriage and everything else. I don't think we have rights in hockey. I think we get othered. I think more often than not, kids and adults are pushed out of the sport for being queer. So I think we're doing it backwards, where we're celebrating first and haven't necessarily done the work to shift it. In terms of last year, listen, I believe in freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. I think those players don't want to wear a jersey. That is their right and choice. For the Russian players who are fearful of their families and the risk involved, I totally get it. I wouldn't either, if I thought my family would die. For the players who based it off faith, the only thing I wish, it's still their choice, is that the league had things set up like what I do, and I've worked with some NHL teams where we are informing them, and they're at least making informed decisions before they do it, and they recognize impact. And in terms of the Pride tape, I thought it was a bad decision. Now, after looking at it, it's more like a 2-week vacation from inclusion than it is a full-time decision.
Yeah.
But the tape, same thing, freedom of choice. If we're giving people the freedom of choice not to wear a jersey, we should give people the freedom of choice to show their support towards the community. And listen, hockey players aren't taught how to talk about inclusion and be supportive in the media and whatnot. So being able to put tape on your stick is a simple, tangible way they can say, hey, I am an ally to this community. I support them. If anyone on my team is LGBTQ plus, all the LGBTQ plus fans, any young kids playing, you're welcome here. I'm a safe space for you.
Have you been in touch with Luke Prokop, the Nashville product, who's come out as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Luke and I started talking months before he came out. I was part of the team that helped work with him to come out. I lived it, right? Like, I lived that experience. So I was able to give him firsthand knowledge of what it'd be like to be inundated with press messages, your life kind of explode in a matter of seconds. And it was Luke and I talk a couple times a week to this day. Like he's a friend, and we share a very unique, special bond that not a lot of people share. So it's I think Luke and I will probably always be in each other's lives.
Okay, I'll remind you again that it is Wednesday. As we conclude the interview, what's up next on the tour?
We're off to North Van tonight.
Yeah.
Working with 8 teams tonight, and then it's 2 more tomorrow. A couple of days off, unless some teams pop in last minute. The day we announced the tour, we actually got an additional 100 teams reach out. Nice. So, yeah, really cool, and I think it's a testament to the progress and how badly people want this. So. We're just going to go. We're here till the 28th, and that's off to Calgary, then Edmonton, then Winnipeg, off for the holidays, and Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto to finish it out in the new year. So lots of travel over the next few months, and I'm very fortunate. My tour manager on tour with me is Dom Granado, and you may know his aunt.
Yeah.
So he's pretty wonderful and has kept me together, set me up for this interview, and is played junior and NCAA hockey himself. So, it's been really cool.
Maybe you could help us get his aunt on our show. Would love to talk to her. Pretty important around these parts. Hey, Brock, thanks for this. Appreciate it. All the best with the tour and everything else.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on and amplifying the message. Truly appreciate it.
No problem.